Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever you folks are in this universe. Um, Today is December 29, 2024. I believe this is the last video of this year, but also I am not sure if in the new year I will be able to make more videos because I probably gonna be busy doing other stuff. However, I want to make sure that you, whoever is watching this video, I appreciate you for taking the time to watch either this video or some of the videos in the series. These videos are meant to be part of a series of what I call legacy videos, legacy knowledge, legacy ideas, legacy thoughts of what I've been doing for a while. So, in a sense, it's out there in the universe. um, for the time when I depart this universe or this land or this earth, there is something out there that can somehow inspire folks out there. Um, I don't know, to feel better about themselves with this neurodivergency, whatever or whoever they are in their spectrums, etc. So it has helped me. This creating this video has helped me to exorcise who I am and the condition that I have. It has been wonderful, and I think what a better way to finish this series with something related to relationships and there are different types of relationships that we as humans have with other people. However, for the purposes of this video, I will discuss two types of relationships. I think I'm going to start with relationships at work and relationships with partners or romantic relationships, because I think these both are important. So, relationships at work, it's interesting to know that because I was diagnosed late in my life, work before that, it looked like Yasid is such a great worker, caring, charismatic, energizing, nurturing. He cares about others. He cares about colleagues. And because I'm a teacher or an educator or researcher, so I care about my students, my researchers, my participants. That doesn't have changed at all. However, after the diagnosis, I was like, okay, now it makes sense that I am this type of person because I am hypersensitive, hypersensible, I guess, to human issues. And now it has an answer of how I have been with my colleagues, with my superiors or administrators, or you know, those who I am working with. Most of them, if not all of them, see me in a positive way. So I guess that's the positive thing. However, having ADHD also has its challenges in the workplace, especially when it comes to relationship, due to the symptoms like impulsivity or difficulty focusing or poor communication skills, which sometimes and most of the times, unfortunately, leads to misunderstanding with some colleagues or supervisors, or potentially impacting the ability to collaborate effectively or to meet any type of deadlines, so to speak. So these challenges can be manifested in different types of ways that affects in different ways, right? But in my experience, although it affects, I have also been able to cope, so it does not affect. And that's what I remember when I talk about masking a while ago in the other videos. So, for example, the tendency to interrupt colleagues when they're talking in conversations without letting them finish when they're what they're talking. So now I'm aware of these things. So now I sort of monitor myself when these things happen, so I don't know to interrupt them. Sometimes also blurting out thoughts, meaning that when there is a conversation in which we are with colleagues talking about ideas for a project or ideas for a meeting or or a project or an activity that we need to do, there are times in which I blurt out thoughts and ideas right away, sharing ideas without considering sometimes any type of social context, and sometimes coming across as blurred or insensitive to certain issues. And I always have to come back and remediate when these things have happened. Another thing that happens when it comes to communication is, as some of the psychologists and therapists or specialists in ADHD, it's about the non-verbal cues, sometimes being misinterpreted, the facial expressions or body language sometimes leads to misunderstanding, especially when you're talking to somebody and you don't look them in the eye, then folks out there, colleagues might interpret this as I'm not paying attention or I'm being disrespectful for them to not look them in the eye. So it's important to understand that this is not because of that, it's because of the ADHD. Another aspect related to the challenges of having ADHD and relationships in the workplace or with colleagues is about time management issues. Sometimes ADHD folks can be putting off tasks until last minute, that sometimes put a stress to ourselves and having a difficulty to meet deadlines, right? So we always have to postpone things and tell folks out there, can we do this another day? Can I have a couple days after to submit this? However, because I learned so early in life and because of the help of my mother to how to manage the time clearly, I know how difficult is to procrastinate or the effect that has on me with the potential of causing me stress. Then therefore I start early, early the task that I need to do. For example, if somebody there is a deadline on a Friday, whatever, January 10th, then some normies or neurotypical, they might start working 2 3 days before because they know that in those 3 days before they can sort of work out these things and finish their work in 3 or 4 days. For me it doesn't work like that because I know about this procrastination thing. So if the deadline is January 10, then I start working on the particular task on December 10 or November, like 1 month and a half in advance to start working little by little every single day so I can get to that particular deadline. So that's how I cope this idea of time management challenge. Number three, it's about the social interaction issues. And this is so interesting because sometimes people read me as an extrovert, funny guy, charming. Some people have said when it comes to social interactions, and I am like this. I am this uh, social person that I always like to talk to people, engage with people. But the problem with that comes the idea of oversharing, sometimes sharing too much details about personal information too soon, that sometimes people might feel uncomfortable or say, "Oh, why is this sharing so much personal information?" And sometimes that might affect my relationship with the person because that might affect may affect and put into difficulties the relationship in the future. And obviously, this is something that I've been working all my life on how to try to avoid this oversharing thing, right? And some of my friends tells me that I like gossip. I like this curiosity about people, but I also share about myself. So I'm very open about sharing about who I am, where I'm coming from. Actually, these videos is one way of sharing my private personal life with the world. So I share and I overshare who I am. Another thing that it's important to take into account when it comes to relationships in the workplace for those with ADHD is the emotional regulation or deregulation, so to speak. We people with ADHD are very emotional. I am very emotional. And when I got the diagnosis, I realized, well, it now makes sense that I am very hyper emotional. But because of patriarchy, capitalism, and macho chauvinistic ideologies in Latin America, I mask these ideas of being emotional or in tune with my emotions and pain and the crying and all of those things. So I am very emotional within, and because of these things, the people out there don't see it. So there is a lot of pain, and that causes some struggles and difficulties and challenges. Um, because sometimes this leads to impulsivity and rash decisions, and outbursts of different types of things, impulsivity that might affect certain relationships in the workplace, right? And one of the most important things about being this emotional, sensitive person is sensitivity to criticism. And as you know, I'm a researcher, and we receive a lot of feedback, ongoing feedback all the time about applications for funding, research projects, publications, etc. So when we get this feedback, we take it personally and we take it seriously. And we take this feedback so personally that sometimes we don't even see how constructive this um, feedback it is. And it's very it hurts in the heart to me, right? And to the point that a few months ago, I got feedback from a publication, and it was so painful that I stopped writing for like 2 months, and it hurt me a lot. So that affects, obviously, it's an ongoing process of how to deal with these things, but just so people know out there, um, these things affect us even more, very deeply. But on the positive side, I'm also a reviewer for different journals out there. And then I have got feedback from the way I review, and I got positive feedback because I do because I because when I receive feedback, I know how I feel when I get feedback or negative feedback. Then I know how it feels, so I don't want others to feel this way. So the feedback that I provide is mainly positive and encouraging, motivating to others because of that. So for me, what I think in the workplace, it's important to be open to communicate ideas with colleagues and discuss openly. And I have done with my colleagues about having ADHD and telling them exactly how I operate and what are the things that I like to do, how I want things to do. So they folks out there are aware of how I do things and what are my expectations, but also listening to what are their expectations as well. So another things that I also like doing, it's a lot of organization. It's important to communicate the ways in which how I organize my things, so others also are a way of how I organize things. And I also have learned how to listen a little bit more, step back a little bit more, and count 1, 2, 3, 4 mentally, to active listening and paying attention to clarifying questions and summarizing key points in a meeting, for example. And I'm on a constant way of seeking feedback from colleagues, from the place where I work or other places. It's important to me to get that feedback from different perspectives as well. Couple of things that I wanted to mention about the positive things about having ADHD in the workplace or in my work is creativity and innovation. I want to believe, and I am an innovator in language teaching, language research, education in general. So I'm always coming up with ideas on what to do and how to do innovation in research, especially in methodologies, and how I can come up with fresh perspectives and creative solutions to problems. This is an ongoing basis, and I'm happy because it energizes, gives me energy and ideas to the point that colleagues from the past and the present have expressed how I energize them. I give them energy and passion for projects. And my students and colleagues have countless times saying how they feel when I arrive, because they feel that they are energized when I come. They feel motivated. They feel enthusiastic about it. And one more thing is, when I come out with a research project, this idea of hyper focusing, deeply engaged, in one particular project that I am deeply invested, and I dig deep and deeper into that particular topic. I'm so interested that I become a little bit of an expert on that particular topic, especially now with this ADHD thing that we're talking about and neurodiversity. So to the point that now I am co-editing the Routledge Handbook of Neurodiversity and Applied Linguistics, because I am so intensely focused on this particular thing that I think is valuable to the field, both the field of mental health issues, neurodiversity, disabilities studies, but also applied linguistics. So it's a great connection that is something that's probably gonna be working more intensely in 2025. So if you see this video in 2 3 years from today, you probably see my work out there, and I really hope to come back to this video at some point and say, hey, look, I did it with the others as well. Um, Now I want to move on to ADHD and romantic relationships. As you can imagine, like any other human being, being in a romantic relationship is not easy. It's not like everybody's having a blast in their romantic relationships and with boyfriends, girlfriends, partners, wives, and husbands, and you name it. And for me, obviously, it has not been easy as well. Throughout my life, has always been like this, with these ups and downs, and like this. But I would say it has been like this, more like more like downs than ups in terms of romantic relationships, because of now that I have the diagnosis because of that ADHD. Now it obviously makes sense, and it sort of puts a little barrier on how I engage with a woman in this case, because I'm a cisgender, straight, heterosexual man, um, interested in women, and I will get back to this in a minute. Um, so it's not easy to get into the normality of relationships, especially because it could present communication challenges that sometimes it difficults communication, misunderstanding, frustration, conflict, etc. It can present different types of forgetfulness or inattentiveness to birthdays or anniversaries, for example, of lack of care, of lack of interest. In some of the partners are like, oh, but you forgot about it, you forgot this, you forgot that day, you forgot the place, all of these things. But it's not; these are not intentional. It's just like it is what it is, and this affects things. We forget things, and people out there, the partners feel like they're like I'm a bad listener or that I don't love them. Is But it is not that. It's just like because of the nature of who I am, that's what happens. On the contrary, sometimes this idea of hyper focusing um, can become a bad thing in a sense, because then I hyper focus in a particular person at a particular moment, and I pay attention to all the things related to this woman in terms of the things that she likes, that she like, what does she do for a living, what does she like to do, all of these things. So you start becoming hyper focusing on the partner a lot, to the point that you don't forget things. So she is one thing and the other one. Um, I was married once, and through that time that I was married, I obviously I saw these ups and downs in that sense, because there are things that I like to do in a particular way that I like to do, and the partner at that time, she wanted to do things in a particular way, and so there was this dissonance at some points, um, and more other things, that to the point that now I am divorced, I guess. Um, but then after that, then I got into different types of relationships that were great and nurturing, loving, caring relationships. Um, but that sometimes help and sometimes doesn't help. But most of the time, I feel like the relationships that I've been to have been so intense for a short period of time. And so, look, it's like really good, but then let go, and then comes another one really good, and then goes away. Um, to the point that I learned to love and to understand the ideas of polyamorous love, right? Polyamory, not what is it called? Polygamous, not polygamous, but polyamory, meaning that I can like and engage in different relationship with women at the same time, and all of them knowing that I love them and I like them and I can have sex with them at the same times, but all within the framework of honesty. And I think that's really important. And for me, I learned to love each one of them on their own, and they know about me, they know who I am, they know how I am. And obviously, at some point, all of me, a person who with ADHD, we want to settle with somebody at some point, right? Like you want to actually stay for a longer time with somebody more stable. But it's important for the other person to also understand that a person with ADHD, we have these quote unquote flaws. So it's for me, if I want to be into a relationship, it has to be a relationship of understanding where I'm coming from. And we'll see what the future brings. We don't know, but I'm open to all types of different types of engagement and relationships that allows me to be myself. And because of this ADHD, I have different types of experiences, uh, and so hyper focusing and engaging into different types of things. And I remember, I'm going to give you a couple of examples just so you know to wrap up today. One particular one, I was into this, what is it called? Dating apps. And at that time, I was really hyper focusing on I think it's astrology, yoga, meditation, um, rocks or stones, and incense, and what else? Tarot cards, all of these things. And then in one of those exchanges, I ran into a woman who was into the same thing, and we were talking and exchanging information, and we were like, "Wow, man, we love the same shit to each other." We plan to go out different times to do things like I don't know, massage therapy and things like that. Like we were totally in tune until we went out, and for whatever reason we just couldn't connect on a, I guess, romantic physical level for other reasons. But that was just explain of how my hyper focusing and interest in one particular thing helped me connect with a woman in this particular case. And in another example, because of this interest in polyamorous relationships, I started dating or going out with a non-binary person. And this non-binary person, they told me, or in the language of, I'm new to this, in the language of queer, the queer language, AFAB is assigned female at birth, non-binary person. So I find the person really fascinating in terms of connecting at a personal level, at a spiritual level, and a physical level. We both like the same type of art, so to speak. Um, but I think it was good that it was just a strong relationship for a short period of time. Uh, but it was good in a sense that it got me thinking that the few times that I've been to queer spaces in which there are non-binary folks out there, I feel closer and accepted in queer spaces when I think about straight spaces, meaning going to bars, going to disco clubs. And when I was younger, going to these places, I felt so odd that I was inhabiting these spaces as a straight cisgender guy. But when I've been to queer spaces, they welcome me as a person, normal person. So then I said to myself, it looks like this neurodiversity, or me being neurodivergent, actually helps me connect with the queer people. But then I realized why, because queer people in general, they are not bounded by this heteropatriarchal uh, capitalist mindset. So in a sense, they have revealed that veil out of that, and then they see you for who you are. And that's why I feel welcome with that. So now and in the future, um, I mean, I've been working, um, one of my colleagues, who is, actually working with me uh, on the book that I'm writing, what that I'm editing. Um, there, Dr. Nick Walker, who's working for a while on neuroqueer, and I think there is a book that Dr. Nick Walker has written. It's called Neuroqueer Heresies, and there's a lot of information that Dr. Nick Walker has, in relation to the, connection between neurodiversity and queerness, and they call it neuroqueer, and there are others that are called neuroqueer, and then that's why I made the connection when I went to the 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 queer spaces, why, um, I was connected so much with the queer community, and why the queer community, and those of who feel identified as neuroqueer. I don't identify myself as neuroqueer, but I understand where they're coming from, and why I have been accepted in the community, for who I am, both as a cisgender straight man, but also as a neurodivergent person, weird guy, however you want to call it, as compared to the regular spaces where normies, neurotypical people, straight guys attend or go. And don't get me wrong, I like going to a baseball game. I like going to clubs. I like having a beer. I like hanging out with the guys at the metal shows. Like all that shit is like that. That's part of this universe that I'm talking about today. But my neurodivergent unit, it doesn't have to be either or. And it's funny that some queer friends of mine, they say, "You see, you are too straight for us, uh, or for our community," which is not that bad. But it was funny that they say that. And in straight spaces, sometimes they think you are too weird and queer for us. So it's like I feel like, well, I am like I don't fit in either or spaces, because I am all around. Like I fit anywhere pretty much. Like I go to queer spaces and I feel welcome with them. I go to punk spaces and I feel welcome. I go to metal shows, I feel welcome. There are some other places that I don't necessarily feel welcome, so I try to go to those places where I feel welcome. So in other words, what I'm trying to say is this universe that you are seeing today here is a neurodivergent universe, neuro universe of myself, that is, not only in relationship with a man or a woman or a non-binary person or a transgender person, but also in connection with the non-human beings. My colleagues, even my former partners, told about how connected I am with animals. And it's true that when I'm out and about, animals connect with me a lot. When I've been to houses, they say, "Oh, but this dog never is happy with you. Like it's always with you. Like with other people, they get mad." Or cats, I'm so connected with cats. Really, the cats love me. And I go to a place and I go cats, and the cats are all attracted to me. The little kittens also. Um, and yeah, I'm so when I started this video about relationships, I wanted to break it down into relationships in the workplace. These are the things that I need to take into account. These are relationships, in romantic relationships, in which I am nurturing, loving, caring, paying attention to the partner, and why not. But now that I'm working on pluriversality, so then now I am posing a new sort of concept or idea of neuropluriversality, or neurodiversality, I guess, so to speak, or neurodiversality, neuropluriversality, however you want to call it, is about not only connecting with that, but also connecting with the non-human world, the animals, the plants, the water, the rivers, and how you are in tune with those other relationships, but also the relationship with yourself in your heart, right? Like on a spiritual level and in relation to the cosmos. And the cosmos, you can call it God or Allah or the great spirits, however you want to call it, it depends on you and where you're coming from. But for me, it's bigger than that, and how we connect with the great, big, massive spiritual kingdom into your heart and in relation to others. So I want to finish this video to repeat that particular part, that when I started today's video about relationships, not only meant the workplace and um, romantic relationships, but also with family. And I forgot to talk about family, my mother and my brother, the deep love that I have with them, and my uncle, and those friends who are close to me is also important. So it's not only one or the other, but there are many layers or vantage points that are interrelated into all of these, right? And beyond that is that spirituality, the relationship with the living and non living creatures, no, more than human creatures as well. So it's a pluriversal view of relationships or relationality with all of these that makes my neurodivergent universe so wonderful and makes me feel proud of who I am at this point in life. I'll circle back to this video at some point in the future. If you like this series, thank you very much for sticking around. Have a wonderful rest of the day, of the year, and your future ahead. Bye.